Good morning, everyone. It's the one, the only Senor Silverback on the airways, flying solo today because El Cuco is out sicko and he can't make it on with this disco. So I'm flying solo. I got to stop with all these rhymes. It's getting crazy, out of hand. You can follow me on roguemoney.net. Check us out on Twitter at the Rogue Money. Follow us on Facebook, Rogue Money DTube, Rogue Money Steam It. Rogue Money on every single podcasting app known to humanity. Check us out everywhere. We're everywhere you want us to be. Also, please just hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and hit us with a thumbs up. Show your like and your love and your support for us and this channel as we continue to grow. Also, check out our sponsors, RemainCom.net. RemainCom.net. Do you need better credit? Are you sick and tired of being treated like a second-class citizen? You want to be able to hit the reset button on your financial life, then RemainCom.net is the place you need to be. RemainCom.net, not only will they fix your credit, they can also protect you and your assets against liens, levies, judgments, you name it, bankruptcies, whatever the heck it is you're going through, whatever crisis you're facing. Understand you got options. RemainCom.net. Also, if you got no problems whatsoever, you need funding, go to those guys. They can get you up to $600,000 unsecured from their network of 335 lenders. RemainCom.net. Check it out. And also, if you need the gold USB, that's where you'll find it as well. RemainCom.net. RemainCom.net. Gorilla improved and Gorilla involved. Check them out. With that out of the way, I usually would say, CJ, what's crack-a-lacking? But I have to tell you guys what's crack-a-lacking because my main man is out sick. So I'm going to be running through a gambit of news solo. So it's a little weird. It's a little weird. I mean, I'm always used to having CJ there. So without him being there, it just feels odd. I feel alone this morning. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys had a wonderful day. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Where do I begin? Look, here's the deal. We are facing a collapsing empire. Pax Americana is becoming Wax Americana. Okay? Pax Americana is becoming Wax Americana. And one of the things I want to talk about real quick, guys, because it's the order of the day, to understand the greater strategic play that is happening here. One of the things that is mentioned, apart from all the noise from Las Vegas shootings and from Rocket Man and North Korea, and if there's going to be a war over there and whatnot, is the Iran Gambit. That's what I call it. The Iran Gambit. Trump's Iran Gambit. The question is it hard negotiating or is it stupid hubris? The thing that is worrisome is you don't know what decision is going to come out. Will it be a decision that will have any sort of a national benefit, which is in reality just leave it alone? Let's try to integrate with what's happening with the New Silk Road. Let's try to be a benefactor and a contributor and a producer and be involved in this incredible, never before seen in human history, geostrategic, geopolitical initiative, geoeconomic paradigm shift that is happening, where we as citizens of the United States will benefit tremendously from the trillions of jobs and the trillions of dollars that would be created out of the United States being involved in an initiative like the One Belt, One Road. Or it could be the ridiculousness where we are nothing, again, but a nuisance on the world stage. Where we spend our time doing nothing but annoying, literally annoying, and becoming the pestilent annoyance on the world stage by annoying every single country there is. These are the two things that face us. Is it going to be a decision that's going to prosper us, or is it a decision that's going to curse us? Is it a decision, folks, that's going to allow the United States to get to the head of the world stage and help us turn us around, or are we going to continue with the same old shenanigans, the same old fraud? Now, Trump's Iran gambit. The question is the world moving towards some sort of a crisis? Many are saying it's the beginning of World War III. Look, there's no World War III. There's no way, no capability of fighting World War III. It's a lose-lose proposition. World War III is not going to be some sort of a contained regional conflict or skirmish. If it is to fit the title of a world war, it has to be global. And if it ever spills out to be a global conflagration, then you better bet your bottom dollar it will probably go nuclear. Now, the Iran nuclear agreement won't automatically collapse if the U.S. withdraws from the multilateral deal. Iranian analyst, and there's a great article here, Mahan Abedin told Radio Sputnik, however, that one shouldn't underestimate Washington since it could give EU member states an ultimatum seeking to ruin the accord. The U.S. has this way, folks, of saying it's our way or the highway. It's my way or the highway. Irrespective of who it hurts, irrespective of how many allies it puts in a very precarious situation. Washington's unilateral withdrawal from the Iranian deal, also known as a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, wouldn't mean that the agreement will fall apart as a result. Mahan Abedin, Iranian analyst and Middle East Eye and director of research group Dysart Consulting, said this: even if the president invalidates the deal, it doesn't necessarily spell the end of the deal. So the question then becomes, folks, is it a political maneuver? Is it a political maneuver where you win brownie points by saying, yeah, the deal's canceled, but in reality, it's really not? Is it the equivalent of hitting an empty airfield with cruise missiles? Is it that type of political posturing that says, oh, Russia's this and that, and they may have done this and that, and then knowing that they've done nothing, it's just political posturing. Can this be political posturing? It could be. The Washington Post recently reported Thursday, citing White House sources, that Trump may declare Iran non-compliant with the JCPOA and, quote-unquote, decertify the deal. Last week, the U.S. president signaled that Tehran has not lived up to the spirit of the nuclear accord and accused the latter of supporting terrorism, exporting violence, bloodshed, and chaos across the Middle East. That is a famous neocon line, guys. Whenever you hear this BS line over and over and over again, Iran is the biggest supporter of terrorism and they're exporting violence, bloodshed, and chaos throughout the Middle East. Know somewhere that some lackey within the halls of the neocon empire, within the deep state of the CIA and the Mossad, are sitting there wringing their hands together like this. Okay? In accordance with the 2015 Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act, the U.S. administration has to certify its commitment to the deal every 90 days. The next deadline happens to be, folks, this October the 15th. Now, if the president decertifies the agreement, the Congress has 60 days to reimpose major sanctions against Iran. And the Congress can either impose, those sanctions, or they can say, yeah, you know what, we don't want to impose any sanctions, just leave it as it is. And this decertification just simply means a political posturing, which could actually spell some political brownie points. So we got to see what's happening here. Is it a political ruse? Is it a maneuver? Is it a Trump who literally is, I believe, trying to do the damn right thing, but is spinning his tires in the mud because the deep state has thrown at him the mud? Can it be a political posturing? The Congress has 60 days to reimpose major sanctions on Iran. Now, here's the other thing. The nuclear agreement, you got to understand one thing is this. It is the multilateral agreement. All right, and this was conducted by what is known as the P5+1. Okay, the P5+1. And if you don't know what the P5+1 is, it's basically China, France, Germany, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the +1 is the United States. Okay, the European Union, okay, and Iran. Those were the 7 entities, the P5+1 plus the European Union and Iran. So those were the 7 entities that got together on the deal. All right? And some would say the U.S. is the most important component of the deal, but nevertheless, even if the U.S. is non-compliant with it and formally exits the deal, it's not the end of the deal. It's not the end of the deal. Number one. Number two, it's not World War III. It's not a declaration. Oh, we're gonna pull out of the deal. We're gonna decertify it. Okay, decertify it. You decertify it. How are you? What does it mean? And this is why, folks, you listen to Rogue Money and you listen to the Gorilla, because I give it to you like no other. And I'll tell you the truth right now. What does it mean on the global level? What does it mean? It means nothing. And I'll explain to you why. Now, the Iranians are going to play their political theater as well. Again, we're having kabuki theater here. Do not be dissuaded. And I'm going to explain to you how this fits into the global paradigm. The Iranian president underscored that the JCPOA serves the best interests of the U.S. as well, commenting on Rouhani's notion that if Washington withdraws from the deal and the old status quo, which is the neocon, Bill Kristol, wet dream, the circle jerk committee, status quo is somehow reinstated, the U.S. would face not one, but 2 major nuclear crises. We don't need that. You see? And I want you to think about this nuclear crisis. There's going to be jack diddly going to be done about North Korea because there's no military option there. If a military option is the dumbest move in U.S. history, and I think people understand that. There's no way to getting around it. I know there were some articles the other day saying, oh, look, the South Koreans have their new bomb. It's going to destroy the North Korean power grid and create a blackout in their power grid. 99% of the country is already in a blackout. They don't have a power grid. Okay? Like, who cares? That's like me saying I've developed a computer virus that's going to infect his typewriter. It doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. So, there's no military option in North Korea. And there sure as damn hell ain't going to be a military option in Iran. It's stupid. The neocons have been searching for decades at this point, trying to go to war against Iran. They realized back in the 80s when they tried that hostage rescue mission out in the desert that going after Iran is not an easy thing. They're not quite like the Arabs. Okay. On the other hand, according to the expert, the Iranian leadership is very much concerned about the potential collapse of the nuclear deal as it could undermine the Rouhani cabinet's internal positions. Okay? Again, that's political rhetoric, and I'm going to tell you why it doesn't matter on the larger scale. Okay? The French and the Germans, to the lecture saying, folks, and Brits are interested in re-entering the Iranian market. I want you to think about that. Again, I'm going to tell you right now, this whole Iranian nuclear deal, the financial stuff that's being put together to be in place for Iran to emerge as a global economic power is being written into place by one major entity and one major entity alone in the Western world, and that is the City of London. Okay, the City of London, while it's poo-pooing the idea of the U.S. being involved in any aspects of world trade, any aspects of having to do with anything with the New Silk Road and the One Belt, One Road initiative, meanwhile is underwriting all of it. They're not going to be the banking mavens. They're not going to be the ones who are calling the shots, but they get to get their share. Okay, I don't want you guys misunderstanding that this is some sort of a Rothschild plot here, because that is not the case. They are going to survive because they will be on the outside, but not on the outside looking in so much, but they will have a minor role to play. Okay, so some of these contracts and these loans are underwritten using the standards that are done by the City of London. This is why, folks, the French, and I reported to you 2 years ago when Christophe de Margerie was assassinated. He is the president of Total Petroleum. He was assassinated when his plane exploded on the runway as it was taking off. Okay, supposedly crashed into a snowblower, blah, 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 at the busiest airport outside of Moscow. I don't buy it. This is after meeting Vlad Putin and the rest of the Russians, because Total Petroleum has never left Iran. Okay? If you look at South Pars, the South Pars project was underwritten by Total Petroleum. Okay? The funds were cleared by BNP Paribas. JP Morgan certified the funds to clear. JP Morgan gets a slap on the wrist. BNP gets, I think, a $9 billion fine because of the whole South Part, because they were, giving money to the Iranians, and that was a big no-no because it had to go through SWIFT, and JP cleared it. JP was a certifying bank that cleared it through SWIFT, right through the Fed wire. Excuse me. And so Total, their engineers, BNP cleared the funds, and the Russian engineers also helped build the Iranian energy industry there. Okay, so now the Germans, the French, and the Brits are very, very, very interested in getting into the Iranian market. They've always have been. Okay, they are, like the French, heavily invested in automotive industry there. They're holding major negotiations with oil, natural gas industry. Excuse me. All of this is happening. The British want to sell their wares. They want to sell, they want to be able to distribute some Range Rovers and some Jaguars and some of the British-made stuff over there, right? And throughout this whole entire thing, the entire European Union, or the disunion, okay, the entire EU they really regard Iran as a huge, lucrative market. All of it. Very large, very lucrative. It's a major hub in the world, geographically and geostrategically speaking, for companies and industries to invest in, to allow further penetration, not only into Southeast Asia, but the Eastern Caucasus. It's a huge market. It's a wonderful hub, and it is smack dab in the middle of the One Belt, One Road initiative. Anybody who would not want to be involved in such a project is a moron. I mean, you've got to be stupid not to be involved. Okay? This is why Merkel and the Berliners, and Germany in particular, especially, the captains of industry that are in Germany, that are in Wessex, that are in Stuttgart, that are in Ingolstadt, that are in Munich, the ones that are in Zuffenhausen, have called and put pressure on the German government to call the U.S. and tell them to refrain from withdrawing from the agreement. So this is the type of political sandstorm, malarkey that's happening. The Chinese expressed hope that the Iranian nuclear accord will further be implemented, despite reports that a possible U.S. withdrawal from the deal. And folks, here's the deal. Some would say this is the beginning of World War III, blah, blah, blah. Again, they don't understand geopolitics. They don't understand the world stage and how things are really played quite the way that we do here at Rogue Money. Quite the way that the ape understands, and quite the way that you folks who've been listening and following the gorilla for these many years understand that the game is much more complicated. That the U.S. is not the biggest kid on the block. The U.S. does not call the shots in anything. And I'm going to tell you why. I believe, wholeheartedly, Trump's withdrawal, if he does withdraw from the Iranian deal, means jack diddly in the long run. It means jack diddly, absolutely nothing with the big picture. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Because what we see, folks, is an emergence of a Russo-Persian-Turk Triad. I'm calling it the Russo-Persian-Turk Triad, is now born and is in full effect in the Middle East, thanks to the foibles and follies and fallacies and fraud of Washington, D.C. Okay? The Russo-Persian-Turk alliance, or the Russo-Persian-Turk Triad, is a geopolitical reality that is in the Middle East right now that is changing it dramatically because the U.S. is simply outgunned, outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outsmarted by this triad, this alliance. Okay? And we can't forget China. China's involved in that as well. Okay? The Sino-Russo-Persian-Turk alliance. Now, great little article here out of the I think it's called Geopolitical Century. The impact of the Arab Spring, the retraction of the U.S. military, and the diminishing of influence in the Arab world as displayed during the Obama administration are facts. Thank you, Odumbo. The emergence of Russia, or the Russo-Persian-Turk Triad, is the new reality. That's my own words. The Western hegemony in the MENA region has ended, and it is not a shy way, but a long list of military conflicts and destabilization. The visit of the Saudi king to Russia shows the growing power of Russia in the Middle East. Thank God. It also shows that not only Arab countries such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE, but also Egypt and Libya are more likely to consider Moscow as a strategic ally. This is what I've been saying, folks. If you've been following Rogue for quite some time, we've been reporting on this. I've been saying this for years. King Salman's visit to Moscow could herald not only several multi-billion-dollar business deals, but could be the first real step towards a new regional geopolitical military alliance between OPEC, Saudi Arabia, and Russia. So we're talking about a major change, a real major changing of the guard. We're talking about a new emerging power structure, a new way of doing business, and a new boss calling the shots. That the U.S. is no longer there. Countries are churning towards this alliance, this multipolar alliance that's being formed, and they're seeing it as a viable alternative. Now, I'm going to show you why the U.S., if it does, pull out of the Iranian nuclear agreement on October the 15th, means jack diddly on the global stage. Number one, when the agreement was signed, okay, when it was signed, there was no full integration of SIPs. The China Interpayment Systems was not fully operational. It was working, but not to the level it was today. The AIIB is not working to the level that it is today. And at that time, the petro-yuan with the gold trade settlement was not announced on the world stage as it is today. So if the U.S. pulls out of the Iranian nuclear deal, it does not mean conflict is coming. It does not mean World War III is about to happen, as all these idiots are out there talking about it. It simply means nothing. It simply means nothing. It simply means some political hacks are going to be celebrating, some neocons. Oh, we pulled out of the agreement. We're so strong. But at the end of the day, the Sino-Russian-Persian-Turk alliance, especially the Russian-Chinese alliance, the Sino-Russian alliance, is going to tell the United States to go pound sand. And the U.S., excuse me, I take a sip of this delectable dark roast. And the U.S. is going to do just that. They're going to take their ball and go away. This is rhetoric. This is fear-mongering for some. Donald Trump is going to lead us to World War III. No, if he does this, it means nothing. Why? You cannot isolate Iran economically anymore. You cannot bully the EU anymore. They're not going to sit on the sidelines and say, okay, fine, we're going to cut our nose to spite our face just because you say so. They can't bully the EU because the EU is in economic ruins. Any more pressure or any more crazy ideas coming out of the United States that has to do with energy or economics will so gravely affect the EU, they might as well take the suicide pill and end it. And the kleptocrats that run the EU, the last thing they want to do is give up on their power. The last thing they want to do is say, you know what? Okay, sure, DC. Let's just have our population go crazy. We'll give up our power and we'll do what you say. No. They don't. Do you think for 1 second they like the deal that Washington put out? When Washington says, stop buying Russian oil and stop buying Russian natural gas and buy our natural gas. But your natural gas is like 50% more expensive. We don't care. We're best pals. But your natural gas, you can't even deliver it consistently. It's not enough. So what? We're friends. You should just buy it. So I should commit economic suicide just to make you happy. Yes. Do you think the EU, with all the economic malaise it's facing right now, do you think for 1 second it could afford with Catalan, which is about to break away right now? I think at some point today, Catalonia is about to announce its independence from Spain. It's right around the corner. Any day, any second now, folks. With all that's happening in the EU, do you think they want to commit the economic suicide of the neocons who have led the EU so well? Do you think they want to commit the economic suicide that was led by the US-backed, Soros-funded NGOs? Do you think they want to do that at this point, at this juncture? The answer is no. So what is the U.S.'s effect going to have on this nuclear deal? Nothing. Oh, it's World War III. The U.S. is going to move its vaunted military. It's choked, broken, stretched thin, poorly funded, under-equipped military? I don't think so. I think there's a better chance of the U.S. military holding a national high heels day where every serving commanding officer will wear red high heels so they can show their solidarity with the feminists of California who are doing their slut walk this week. I think there's a better chance of that happening. I think there's a better chance of the military unveiling their new NATO-approved pink camo for frontline special operations forces. Pink camo that glows in the dark to show their solidarity with the transgendered troops that are serving. I think there's a better chance of that happening. No one wants to fight this World War III that's often put out there by not only the mainstream media, but the dunderheads over at alt media, because they don't understand the geopolitical field because they don't work in it. They don't work in it, period. How are you going to isolate Iran? You can't. They are so well integrated into the world economy right now, especially the real economy, which is the East. Nobody cares what the G7 says. The G7 is the insolvent seven. Nobody cares about the IMF. Who do you think funded the IMF for the last 3 years? China. Who do you think the IMF went to in order to borrow money? The AIIB. Nobody cares about these white elephant institutions. And white elephant simply means it's just an empty building. That's all the IMF is, folks. At the end of the day, it's just an empty office that's staffed by a couple of typewriters and a giraffe-necked woman who wears a scarf. Ever since I started calling her out on it, Christine Lagarde has been wearing a scarf. I kid you not. You could set the timing by it. As soon as I started calling her the giraffe-necked woman, she started wearing a scarf. I kid you not. But that's the IMF. So militarily and economically, there's no options on the table. The only thing that will become of this Iranian thing is going to be political brownie points won by Trump. Because the half-brain, nitwit neocons will have to congratulate him. The half-wit, nitwit American will congratulate him. The ones who don't understand the grander scheme of the far-reaching political play and don't understand the new shot callers on the global geopolitical spectrum would give him the brownie points. That's all it is. Political rhetoric, and nothing will become of this Iranian deal. I mean, think about this. Putin's unconditional support of the Iranian military onslaught in Iraq and Syria, combined with the support for Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen. Think about this. This has put such a change of pace that King Salman, who wouldn't even come out to visit Obama on a tarmac, King Salman, who wouldn't fly anywhere to go see anybody, King Salman didn't fly to the United States to meet with Donald Trump. But King Salman, the sickly, weak, unhealthy, near-death King Salman himself, not the crown prince, but the king himself, flew to Moscow, met with Putin, bowed his head towards Putin, and he did all that. And they signed the deal for the S-400. Why are they asking for the S-400? People say, oh, America's going to be engineered. No, you can't. The source code for the S-400 is so damn encrypted, you can't unlock it, period. Can't hack it. It's a very advanced missile system. It's not like the U.S. THAAD, which is a piece of shit. Why did the Saudis ask for the S-400? Did you see that political maneuvering? I mean, London Paul talked about it yesterday. Why did the Saudis ask for the S-400? Simple. People say, well, there was a $10 billion weapons deal signed between the Saudis and the Americans. $10 billion. It's really nothing in the grand scheme of things. $10 billion to the Saudis. They don't care about the $10 billion deal, which is going to be canceled by the U.S. administration. They're going to cancel it. The Saudis are getting ready to be thrown under the bus. They sense that. They sense that ever since that 9/11 report with the 15 missing pages that showed that the Saudis were involved, yada, 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 so on and so forth. The 15 missing pages, y'all remember that. The whole entire, JASTA law that was passed that allowed families of 9/11 to sue the Saudis, I think, which was voted down by Obama. Vetoed by Obama, excuse me. The Saudis know what is happening in the U.S. The Saudis are going to be blamed for funding ISIS. They're going to be blamed for creating ISIS. They're going to be blamed for supporting ISIS. They'll be blamed for everything and then thrown under the bus. This is their way of saving their ass. They sense this, and I predicted this 3 years ago on my article, Blood and Sand, on Rogue Money. It's in the archive somewhere. I got to pull that up. You go back and read that. It's prophetic. Prophetic. The Saudis are in charge of a crumbling empire. They need an economic boom. You have to understand, in order for Saudi Arabia to diversify out of oil, which it needs to do, it cannot diversify out of oil and yet be the purveyor, the custodian of the petrodollar. It can't do that. Saudi Arabia cannot diversify its economy into electronics, into computers, into banking, and be the rival to the United Arab Emirates if it is the custodian of the petrodollar. And if it leaves its custodialship of the petrodollar dies. The U.S. will go to war. Remember what Papa Bush says. The American way of life is not negotiable. So what was really happening in Qatar? Was it really because the Saudis were upset at Qatar because of they were funding terrorism, which is the kettle calling the pot black? Or was it something deeper? Was it maybe, perhaps, possibly, and some of the guerrillas' sources have stated, Saudi Arabia's angst against Qatar has to do with the fact that the Qataris are playing both sides. They're signing energy deals with the Russians. At the same time, they're promising forward operation capabilities from their base for a Saudi strike from the U.S. into Saudi Arabia. You better bet your bottom dollar there is a planned coup. That was planned years ago, at least 5 to 7 years ago, when King Faisal was still alive, the previous king before Salman took power. That a coup in Saudi Arabia was to happen. And in fact, this last situation that occurred, where members of the royal family were in lockdown and or arrested, that was a coup move. That was a coup move. It was helped, fostered by elements within intelligence that are in Qatar. Qatari intelligence assets helped with that attempted coup in Saudi Arabia, and you heard it here first on Rogue Money with the gorilla. Let that sink in. The royal family members that were arrested, that were detained, that were quarantined in their own mega mansions were members that were guilty of colluding with the U.S. deep state, this cocaine import agency, the CIA, with elements of Qatari intelligence. The Saudis know this. The king is terrified. Why do you think he did not stay in his palace? Why do you think he sought protection from the only two nations in the world that could protect you against any sort of U.S. aggression? Why do you think he met with Putin and signed that S-400 deal? Because if there is a U.S. airstrike coming into Riyadh, no matter what the plane is, F-15, 16, F-22, F-35, it will be shredded in the air. That is the reason why. The death knell on the petrodollar is starting to ring. I don't see this surviving past 2018. It cannot survive. It cannot survive. I mean, Western influence, folks, let's be honest here, has waned significantly. The idiotic moves by the deep state against Erdogan and Turkey, well done. Well done, morons. Very well done. You have effectively taken one of the largest militaries in the world, which is the Turks, and you've got them to say, give the one finger salute to NATO. What's left of NATO? It's a joke. What's left of it? Just the U.S. just the stretched thin U.S. troops. You got to understand, the Saudis realize, folks, that its future is no longer tied to the insane, insolvent, criminal West. That its new markets, new customers, and support lies in the East. It lies in Asia and other emerging areas of the world. And so we have a new bromance emerging in this world. And the new bromance is not Washington and Riyadh. That's the old bromance. The new romance or bromance is between Moscow and Riyadh. OPEC. Think about this. Think about this for a second. Libya on the side of Russia. Syria on the side of Russia. Iraq on the side of Russia. Iran on the side of Russia. Saudi Arabia on the side of Russia. Egypt on the side of Russia. Who do we have left? I mean, Qatar, energy-wise, is already on the side of Russia. They're going to make nice. Putin straighten that relationship out. Watch the U.S. naval base shut down in the next coming months and years. Watch that be shut down. Probably converted to a joint Chinese-Russian military base. Watch what happens. Watch what happens. And there's nothing the West could do. There's nothing. There's no weapon system that the U.S. could field. There's no financial shenanigans, because you cannot sanction a country that is a trading partner of China. You cannot sanction a country that is a trading partner of the largest economy in the world. And yes, I said that the Chinese are the largest economy in the world, not the fictitious U.S. with its re-engineered, reverse-engineered GDP numbers, where the majority of its GDP numbers are nothing but just a bunch of reshuffled debt and window dressing. Nothing can or will happen with this Iranian pullout. Let not your heart be troubled. It isn't a nuclear winter you should fear. It's not a nuclear strike by the North Koreans you should be worried about. It's not World War III in the Middle East. And all the foolishness of, they're going to go after Hezbollah, blah, 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 blah. They ain't going to do jack shit. Nobody's stupid enough to go after Hezbollah. Are you nuts? Are you nuts? That's not what you have to fear. The only thing that you need to worry about is, what are you going to do in this transition? Now you might say to yourself, V, what transition are you talking about? You've been following this show for quite a while. You would know the transition that I'm referring to is the transition out of the dollar and into this new multipolar world. What are you going to do to preserve your wealth? What are you going to do to ensure that you stay intact? Okay, and I'm not predicting Mad Max outside of your window or your door. I'm not saying that. Many will be impoverished. Many will be enriched. You and I, folks, do not be afraid, because, I see crisis as an opportunity. Many of you, there are some of you that have thought about becoming a millionaire or a billionaire, and you've thought how difficult it might have been. You position yourself correctly now. You position yourself correctly now, and you stand to become a multi-millionaire in this next go-round. There will be more multi-millionaires and billionaires created, and even trillionaires created, with the passing of this old economic order and the emergence of the new one. As the unipolar world dies the death, a horrible death that it deserves to die, and the multipolar world emerges strong and bright. And I've said this many times, folks. The largest transfer of wealth in human history is about to take place. Do you want to get paid? This is the gorilla. Over and out.